Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I don't know how the sound works. It'll work if I walk out here? Thank you very, very much. I'm coming over here a little bit to get closer to you, but also to get further from the sun. Thank you so very much. I'm so pleased, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for welcoming us to this great city, and your council members. Thank you all so very,
I'm sorry,
very
I don't mean to be in
much.
your way.
Councilwoman at large and president of the council. It is so good to be here with you, and also great to be here with three of my colleagues. When Joyce finished, I leaned over to Ben and said, "Ben, I'm glad I ain't got to follow Joyce." Old Benny stepped it up a little bit. I ain't never heard him like that down in Mississippi. He stepped it up. I looked down there and I said, "Boy, I don't know. You better bring some money from the finance committee and do something." But Gregory acquitted himself very, very well. Now, Benny said that he wasn't putting any pressure, any load on your shoulders. But the three of them have certainly put a lot of pressure on me. And I'm pleased to be here with you and with them. I'm pleased to be here because this is a very, very important election. Because this election is going to be treated by all the media as somewhat of a bellwether. These off-year elections, especially the special elections, they look at them as an indication of where not just the country is going, but where our party is going. And I think that metaphor that we just heard about tying your ropes together, when you got three people and all three of them rope too short, and they ain't got enough to tie those ropes together, that tells you what happens when you're selfish. That's what selfishness gets for you. You have to give up yourself if you want to get anything done. So let your rope get tied to somebody else's rope. And maybe their rope get tied to somebody else's so that we can join together in order to do what is necessary for this great country. And this is a great country. Doesn't need to be made great again. It's already great. That's not the challenge that we have as a country. Our challenge is to make this country's greatness accessible and affordable for all of its people.
Yes.
That's our challenge.
Yes.
And Shontel understands that. I met her years ago working with Marsha Fudge. And you've heard the relationship that they've talked about it, so I won't bore you with regurgitating that. But I will say this. When I met her, I knew I was meeting somebody special. And when she said to us that she was going to run for the seat, all of us felt that we had a responsibility of helping her succeed. And that's why we're here. We are here to let you know that if you send her to Washington, you ain't going to have to worry about whether or not she get things done for this district. So this election is about much, much more than the resources to be found in Washington. This country is at an inflection point. We have seen 4 years of a presidency that was hell-bent on driving us apart. This country needs to come together. And I'm so pleased that Shontel had the wherewithal to use that theme of building together. You know, those of you who pay any attention to me, you know, I'm instructed by history. I study history all day, every day. And I'm thinking today about one 2-volume book that was written way back in the 1830s, a guy named Alexis de Tocqueville. De Tocqueville came to this country really to study our penal system. Came from France to look at our penal system. But while he was here, de Tocqueville says he detected a certain magic about this country. And he set out to find out what was the source of that magic. He went all around the country, going in and out city and county councils, going into legislative halls, going into state capitals, looking for that which made this country magical. Now, some historians have said that de Tocqueville concluded that this country was great because its people are good. There's some dispute among historians as to whether de Tocqueville really said that. I don't know if he did or not. I wasn't there. But I do know this. This country's greatness does depend upon the goodness of its people. And that's what's at stake in this election, whether or not we will allow the country's goodness to shine through. So in order for the country's goodness to show through, we got to elect good people. People who've demonstrated the capacity to sit down with others and work together. Find common ground. Do that which is necessary to accentuate those positives about this country. And working together, we can eliminate whatever the negatives might be. Now, I don't know, as I said, whether de Tocqueville said that, but I do know that Tocqueville said this. There's one little sentence in that 2-volume work that says America is great, not because it is more enlightened than any other nation, but rather because it has always been able to repair its faults. I want you to think about that. COVID-19 has opened up some fault lines in our system. We know that children are losing years in school because of COVID-19. And we got to elect people who can work together to help us eliminate that fault, repair that fault that has been opened up in our educational system, who will work with this president, who has just demonstrated what he's all about with this New Deal, $1.2 trillion, devoting $65 billion to broadband. Broadband will be to the 21st century what electricity was to the 20th century, and it's going to happen because of this president. We need to send people who will work with this president to do what is necessary so that broadband can get our children in touch with the rest of the world. COVID-19 has opened up some fault lines in our health system. You cannot have a successful, effective healthcare system unless you have telehealth, telemedicine. We've got to have it if we are going to do what is right by everybody. I know I lost my wife just about 2 years ago to diabetes. And I know what this country is faced with. We're faced with some real challenges. And healthcare is at a crossroads because if you're in rural America and you aren't connected to the internet, your rural hospital is going to soon close, as 4 just did in South Carolina. And the only way to keep them open is for us to get them connected to each other. That's why we got to have broadband for telehealth, broadband for telemedicine. We got to have broadband for rural America. And we got a president who's committed to it. Let's send him somebody who will work with him and help him get it done.
Yes.
Some fault lines have opened in the business world. The people who own businesses that will allow them and their employees to stay at home and work online, they remain open and remain successful. for those businesses that were located in areas that they could not get connected. Those people went out of business. Some of them never to reopen again. The country is being put back on track in its pursuit of perfection. So what we need is to have a supporting cast in Washington who will work with this president, who's now got this country back on track. Work with this president to get his agenda done. And if you don't think he's being successful, ask all the experts, what did the American Rescue Act do? One little act. The experts looked at it and said, with this little act, 1/2 of all the children who are living in poverty will be lifted out of poverty overnight. 1/2 of all the children in the country. That is getting it done for the American people. And we've been fighting this battle with the black farmers who had been discriminated against for almost 100 years by the Department of Agriculture. And in the Rescue Act, $5 billion to rescue those black farmers, and 45 special assistants, you all remember, is now suing us to keep us from getting the money to those people. We are going, I'm telling all the farmers, keep filling out the application, because we're going to win this lawsuit, you're going to get your money. That's right. That's what this president is doing. And look what we've done. The Affordable Care Act. We all have improved. You know, they were against the Affordable Care Act, the other side. Fought against it, filed lawsuits against it. First time they filed a lawsuit, the vote was 5-4 that the Affordable Care Act was constitutional. They weren't satisfied with that. They filed another lawsuit. Went back up to the Supreme Court. This time the Supreme Court decided 6-3 that is constitutional. But they weren't satisfied with that. They filed a third lawsuit, went back to the Supreme Court. This time the Supreme Court said 7-2. I think they're going to quit now. And we now have an opportunity to build on the Affordable Care Act to make it more efficient, more effective, and a better document for the American people. That's what this president is doing. It's right there in the Rescue Act. And we're now going to pass what I know will salvage American families. The American Families Act is right there in that $3.5 trillion bill. The American Jobs Act, right in that bill, and everybody says, are you going to get all 3.5 million? I don't know. We may not get but 3.4. No, I don't think we'll get every penny of it. But I'll tell you what, we're going to get more than we got now.
Yep.
And that's what we're trying to do.
Yep.
And that's what this is about. So we need to have people in Washington who can sit down with other people, reconcile differences, get rid of those things that separate us, look for common ground, and do what is necessary to build this country for our children and our grandchildren. That's the kind of people we've got to have. And all of that is embodied in this young woman. And so I want to thank you all for being here today. And I want to thank you in advance for what I know you're going to do between now and Tuesday. And then when I ain't going to bed Tuesday night until I hear from y'all. And I don't want to stay up late Tuesday night. So I want y'all to get this thing done early so as soon as they start reporting, I can go to bed early. Well, let me say this. So I can turn off my television early, because when Shontel is named victorious, I'm going out to the local pub.
Yes. Yes.
And celebrate. I ain't going to let y'all celebrate up here all by your lonesome. I'm going to raise a glass to you from South Carolina.
Yes.
Now, Kenny Thompson is a teetotaler. He's a teetotaler. But he'll drink ginger beer. I know. He'll drink ginger beer. And I'll tell you, he makes sure that it's ginger too. And so I want to thank them for being here and thank all of you for being here. This is a critical point. Right now, our margin in the House, the Democratic margin in the House, 3 votes. My job is to count the votes. My job is to say to the Speaker and to the Democratic leader, when the bill comes to the floor, I have to keep them abreast of whether or not we've gotten to 218. And if you don't have but a 3-vote margin, you've got to make sure that all the people in that group are on the same page.
Yep.
I got to be able to say to the Speaker, our caucus is together. I don't need to have to worry about whether or not there's somebody among us that can't be counted on. That there's somebody among us that cannot contribute to the overall result. We have to have people who can work together. And that's what this is all about. So as I close, let me remind you, I grew up in the parsonage. And when I was going away to school, I thought I was going to follow my father in the ministry. He and I had talked about it for years. And I got to South Carolina State where I planned to stay for 4 years, and I was going on to the seminary. I went to state in the late 50s and early 60s. And so I was there, organized the first sit-in in South Carolina, ended up in jail. And when I was getting out of jail, by the 3rd time, I decided that wasn't working too well. So I went home to tell my dad that I had changed my mind. I didn't think I was going to the seminary. I thought my dad would be very upset. He probably was. But he said this to me. Well, son, he said, I suspect the world would much rather see a sermon than to hear one. I've never forgotten that. I have never forgotten that. And I tried to make sure that everybody see a good sermon in my work. And as I carry out those responsibilities, I look for that kind of quality in other people. I have found it in Shontel Brown. And I want you to join me in sending her to Washington. And I believe this. And it's right there. I don't know if Reverend Fowler had to go get his wife from dialysis, and so he is left. I don't know the other reverend here, but I'll tell you this. You don't have to be a preacher to study the Bible. I do. And I believe, when I look at this race, I think, and I've been thinking this throughout the whole time, not just when the numbers start getting good. I thought about